So something like abortion, which as a general rule, I'm for the woman being able to make decisions about her body. But at the same point, I would understand that having an abortion at 8 months or 7 months or even 6 months, in my opinion, you're definitely destroying a human life.
Yep.
Now, if people don't want to have that conversation, right? People are afraid to have that conversation. So what moral argument can you make that is for, I'm guessing you're for abortion, actually, I don't know.
I'm pro-choice.
So you are pro-choice.
Yeah.
So
I'm not necessarily for abortion.
Yeah,
I'm
okay, so
pro-choice,
good use of, that's why language matters.
Yeah.
But what moral argument can you make that's for abortion that also understands that at some point before that thing leaves the woman's body, it is a life at the same point?
Well, I think the law has tracked this fairly closely to our intuitions that, a third trimester abortion is wrong. The gray area in the second trimester, no gray area in the first trimester, kind of tracking our sense about whether it's an individual or not. Is it a person that's thinking, cognizant, can feel and suffer? And so there, I think you can make the case, I try to in the moral arc, that the freedom of adult women to have control and choice over their own bodies slightly trumps the rights or whatever of the fetus, just barely. I'm not pro-abortion, I am pro-choice, and it would be better if the numbers got down. But on that, if it's our goal to decrease the number of abortions, the best thing you can do is get women educated, prosperous, and access to birth control, and the numbers just go down.
Right, and that's where we really fail as a society, right?
Yeah.
Because the same people that don't want abortions also cut sex education,
right?
And then it's like, well, and then they cut social services, so people feel like if they're going to have a kid and not have money for it, well, they don't want that kid.
Right.
So it's like, again, it's another one of these never-ending cycles.
Then the other argument I make in the moral arc is a historical one, that historically men have always lorded it over women, particularly about sex and paternity and so on. And if you just look at the history of marriage and the history of men and women's relationships for thousands of years, it's always men trying to control women. And there's good evolutionary reasons for this. Pinker argues about this in The Blank Slate, whole chapter on sex and all that stuff. And men are obsessed with controlling women's sexuality. And this is one of the big things that have helped the women's movement is to break those chains and give women the freedom. So that's my final argument, is that in addition to the rights of the fetus, so on, all those, but just in the long run, it's better to give women more freedom than less, and to keep men out of that area of control.
Yeah, so that sounds like it would line up with some libertarian values.
Absolutely,
to the liberty of the woman.
Yeah.
Could you talk about one of your differences with Hitch, that is Christopher Hitchens, specifically his pro-life stance? Do you believe he was mistaken? Now, Hitch, it could be that I'm unaware of everything Hitch said about abortion, but from what I recall, I don't think it's fair to call him pro-life. I think he said that he found abortion, depending on the stage at which it occurs in a pregnancy, to be a serious ethical concern and not to be entered into lightly, and I certainly agree with that. I would never call myself pro-life. I'm certainly pro-choice in the conventional sense, but I don't think anyone should be eager to have a late-term abortion, and I can't imagine anyone is. Now, where one draws the line between it being a trivial loss of a few dozen cells and something more akin to a murder of an infant, that's not obvious. And the convention of breaking a pregnancy into 3 trimesters and considering the first 12 weeks to be more or less a time at which one is free without any ethical concern to choose to terminate a pregnancy, I don't know that there is a neurologically principled stand to take there. I'm not close to this developmental literature at this point. I don't know what we know about the possibility of suffering at each week past conception. I mean, any line you draw is going to seem arbitrary if you're a day on either side of that line. So there's no way to escape the sense of these landmarks being arbitrary. But I'm certainly pro-choice, and I think if a woman really wants to terminate her pregnancy, more often than not, there's a very good reason why she would And that's not a child you want to bring into the world, and a woman can't be forced to have a child and put it up for adoption. So the ethical ballast is all on the side of the freedom for a woman to choose what to do with her body. But at a certain point, it is obvious it's not merely her body. You're talking about now a creature increasingly like a newborn infant who can feel pain and who has interests of some sort. And where they become fully human interests, at the moment I don't know a better line to draw than the viability of the fetus outside the body. So at 22 weeks or so, you're talking about something that is, for all intents and purposes, just a premature infant that could be delivered at that point and survive. And I know people who have had infants that premature who, after a few months in the NICU are now wonderful children who are fully intact. So a third trimester abortion is problematic ethically, and I don't know how someone finds himself in that situation. So I think that's the kind of salad of concerns I just served you is what Hitch was thinking about, if I'm not mistaken, and I think I share his view.
To kill them. Okay, this is not a matter of a woman's right to choose. A slave owner didn't get to choose to hold slaves. Nazis didn't get to decide which Jews got to live. And don't give me the it's legal, therefore it's okay. Lots of things were legal. Lots of things in human history have been legal that were totally evil. Okay, it is evil to suggest, as Hillary Clinton does, that the minute before a baby is born, you should be able to drag it by the feet out of the mother, except for the head, stick a scissors in there, ram it into the baby's skull, rip the skull open, suck the brains out, crushing it, and then pull it out. That's Hillary believes that that's something you should be allowed to do. When I talk about stuff I hate, this is a grave sin. It's a blot on the American Republic. It's a blot on the morality of the American people that we treat the killing of literally the most innocent among us. Literally the most innocent among us. We treat the killing of these human beings as nothing more than just an issue of convenience and choice and all the rest of it. It's just no more euphemisms, no more euphemisms. And I wish to God that Mike Pence would have said that instead of citing to the Bible, okay? I haven't cited the Bible one time because I don't think that I think the Bible is right, but I don't think the Bible is the important textbook here. I think what's important here is the science. And I think you're talking about the creation of a unique human life on day one, and you can see it, and you can see the growth. And if you're willing to point out to me where it is that this becomes a human as opposed to a ball of tissue, then let's hear it. Let's hear it. I've gotten tweets, by the way. I tweeted this out earlier, and somebody said, well, the brainwaves only start at week 20. So how about that? Do you think that people who are brain dead are alive? Well, people who are brain dead don't turn into not brain dead 3 weeks later. Would you kill somebody in a coma because they're brain dead, but they're not going to be brain dead in 4 weeks, in 10 weeks? Would you do that? Would you pull the plug on him, knowing for a full-on fact that if you just wait a few weeks, that person's going to be fully functional again? Would you do that? And it's truly incredible to me the way that we can blind ourselves to this.